Hello, hello. Welcome to another tier list, and today we are going to look at the weapons for Die for the Lich. I'm going to rate these weapons from S tier to D tier. I will explain the tier. We are going to be here for a while because there are many weapons in Die for the Lich, and this is not even including the shields. So yeah, I will explain each weapon, what it does, how to use it, and how good I think it is. Alright, let's start with explaining the tiers, and I'll also explain who am I. So my name is Biderlin. I'm a little bit sick as always. When I'm sick, it's the time I usually think about creating those tier lists because I have time. Yeah, anyway, I play this game quite a lot. I end up on the top of the ranked ladder almost every time I play. So I think I can safely say about myself that I know how to play this game. Yeah, and being good at this game is mostly just knowledge. You need to know what things do, when to use them. So this is hopefully going to help you also have this knowledge to do better at the game, because this is a game about, when you know the questions, you can fit the answers. So this will help you know the questions that the game is posing to you, which is the weapon choices. Right, let's begin. So how I'm going to rate it. So for me, a good weapon is a weapon with a counter that is not too high or too low. What does that mean? I think the best weapons have between 12 to 16 value. That's the best way, because if you have 20, you need to waste a lot just to get the critical value. And if you have lower than 10, then you are not really doing a lot of damage unless your critical really allows for it. So yeah, that's one thing that is going to be taken into account when I'm ranking these weapons. So 10 or below can be a D tier if they have no special critical, but if it has a really good critical, it can end up a B or even an A, right? So we will talk about those. And yeah, and the other aspect is how good the critical effect is. So if the critical is giving you something that you want to achieve or not. Right, let's start. It orders all the weapons alphabetically, I believe. So we will just do it alphabetically rather than by rarity. You can also do it by rarity, but I think just going one by one from right to left would be good. All right, I'm preparing myself because this is going to be a journey. Right, let's start with the Venom Reach. Venom Reach is a very good weapon. What it does, I believe the counter here is 11. Actually, you know what? I will open the game and I will make sure. I will double check myself. It's either 11 or 13, I can't recall. Yeah, it is 13 actually, which is even better than I thought. Still an A tier, because the critical value allows you to apply a poison stack for D6 on the enemy. What that means is that every time you roll a D6, the weapon stack will increase and the enemy will take that amount of poison damage. D6 for poison is really good because you start with a lot of D6s in most decks, and D6 is also a very common die to get more of. So you can synergize with this as soon as you grab it, and you will usually find it somewhere within Act 2. So you will have some time to synergize into it. So when you pick it, oh right, that's another aspect for rating these weapons, is also when you find it. So it's really important to note when you are likely to find a weapon. So rare weapons are usually found in Act 2. And that also affects the rating that I will give those weapons, because sometimes you can find a really good weapon, but it's too early because you need to synergize into it, or too late. So yeah, finding a weapon in the middle of the run is really good. That's why it's an A tier. The synergy is really good. 13 is a really good number to have on a weapon. So it's an A tier weapon. Let's continue. The Venom Hatchet, I believe it's called. It's very similar to the Venom Reach, but this one will give you a D8. D8s are not as good. This weapon counter is also just a 10, so it's not going to deal a lot of damage up front, and it will give you a poison D8. You will have less D8s than D6s in most runs, which makes it just automatically less valuable, which is why it is a bit tier. Right, we can maybe go even faster. Okay, this is the first legendary we're going over. Sorry, I need to cough a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little bit sick. Twin Carnage. This one has a 20 counter. And what it does on critical, it allows you to roll 2d20s. This is another B tier. Even though it's legendary, even though it sounds amazing, it has an amazing potential, right? Like having 20 on the counter, if you can achieve it and then roll 2d20s, it's amazing. But how many times do you find yourself being able to... So you need to fuel a lot here. You need to fuel the 20 counter, and then you need to have 2d20s that are worth throwing around to make this weapon really reach its potential. When you can reach this potential easily, it's an S tier. But in most runs, you will have to fight to get this synergy going, and you will have to wait like a few turns before you can use this weapon effectively, which doesn't make it great, right? Like just having a 20 counter value is not terrible. It's pretty okay actually. It's pretty good, right? But the critical value is not amazing, and it's not as legendary as you might think. I would put it on a B tier, which is maybe a hot take. But yeah, rarity is not everything, so this is a good example. This is the Tooth Dagger. So I will explain what it does. I will put it on C for now. I might adjust it to B. It's not bad. It can feel better in some playstyles. What it does, I believe the counter here is 8. And what it does on critical, the enemies that you attack can only deal half the damage. So if they would deal 10, they would instead deal 5. So this gives you a little bit of defensiveness in the critical value. It's not an amazing defense. In most cases, you will reduce the amount of damage you are going to take by somewhere between 2 to 6, which is nice. It's kind of similar to what an ability, the Chain Armor ability would give you, which is also not an ability I love. But actually combining this with a Chain Armor will give you the consistent defense you need. So my problem with this dagger is that it's not consistent enough. Like you will not get consistently the amount of damage reduction you need to not use a shield, for example. But if you have a Chain Armor, this can actually synergize pretty well with the Chain Armor, because with the Chain Armor and another high damage weapon, you can consistently reduce the enemy damage to something you can defend without even needing to use a shield. So it has some use cases which it can feel a B or even an A, but in most cases this is just a C tier, because 8 is a very low value for a weapon. And the Thin Silence will be our first S tier weapon. So I'm stopping to sip water or coffee sometimes because my throat is a bit hurting. Thin Silence, this is a pretty interesting weapon. It does two things. One, whenever this weapon kills an enemy, it is increasing its counter by 1 permanently. So this weapon has only 6 counter, which is very low, right? This is a D tier if you only look at the counter. But whenever you kill an enemy, it increases it by 1 permanently. So next fight, if you kill an enemy in the first fight, so the second fight you will have 7 counter. And you know, if you killed another 2 enemies in the second fight, and in the third fight you will have 9. And this usually means that if you grab this weapon in the second, or if you are lucky enough, end of the first act, you can get it to 20 counter or above. You usually don't need 20 counter. 20 counter is sometimes overkill. You want to keep it between 12 and 16 or 18, I would say. But yeah, it's really good to have this counter be adjustable and increase it to what you want. And the second ability, which is a very, very good ability, is that it strikes twice. And the second strike is only for half the damage, but it's still very, very useful. So if you would deal, for example, 10 damage, you would deal 10 and then another 5, which is extremely good. Yeah, I would definitely call this an S tier weapon. The adjusted critical is very, very useful. You can stop adjusting it when you are high enough, or you can keep adjusting it to be higher and higher if you have the fuel for it. So you can kind of, you know, as you build your deck, you can adjust this weapon to fit into your deck, which is something no other weapon can do. Which is why I feel like this is like just a very, very safe bet to always take when you see. The Swing Blade. Yeah, the Swing Blade is an A tier just because it's very strong. Like with the counter it has. It has a 17 on the counter value, which is very good. I would say I would only prefer 16 over 17 for a counter. No, in a white room without actually playing, would be the perfect counter for me. And what it does when you reach this counter is that it hits nearby enemies. And that's all it does. It used to also give you a draw when you killed an enemy with this weapon, but it doesn't do that anymore. But yeah, the ability to just have a splash damage is pretty nice. It's not amazing, like it's not as good as striking twice the same enemy, but striking the adjacent enemies is not bad. And 17 counter is a very good counter to have, which makes it an A tier for me. It's pretty simple, I don't need to over-explain it. Good counter, pretty good ability, that's all. That's all you need to be an A tier weapon for me. And another S tier weapon is the Mace. I believe the counter here is 19. I'm going to actually check. No, it is 18, I was wrong. 18 is actually better than 19. The critical value is the best critical value any weapon in this game can have. What this critical value does is that it stuns your enemy. What stun means is that the enemy can't act this turn. It takes, you can then not stun the enemy for another 2 turns, but that's fine. Preventing the enemy from acting is the best debuff in the game, and you generally always want to do that, so that's why it's an S tier. The critical ability is just amazing, and I will just adjust the screen a little bit. Right, yeah, looks nicer. Okay. Yeah, it has the best critical ability in the game, in my opinion. And 18 counter is pretty good, right? Yeah, I would say the golden spot is 15, 16 counter, and then like every step over or below is not as good. Alright, let's talk about this Snake Dagger. Snake Dagger is a dagger with a potential to be S tier, but it can also be D tier depending on the run, which is why I'm putting it on B tier. Every time you use a trinket, it has a 10 counter, I will just start by that. Every time you use a trinket, it will roll a bedeviled D4. It will roll I confused myself. Sorry, it will roll a ghost D4, not a bedeviled D4. That's another weapon. I'll talk about it later. So, why is this good? It's because after you reach the critical value, you can roll your trinkets and increase and get a lot of D4s. The D4s get rolled directly into the board, and they don't remain in your train, which means they are destroyed once you use this weapon. The other effect this weapon has is that it strikes twice, which is a very, very good critical ability. So if you have a lot of trinkets and a consistent way to get the critical value, and I'll talk more about that, the 10 critical value, then this becomes amazing and an S tier. So what's the trick with this weapon? Why does it feel D? Many times if you just take it without thinking about it, it will feel like a D tier, because getting a 10 critical value is very hard with this weapon if you don't have manipulated dice. Like if you cannot manipulate your dice, if you cannot reroll them, then it's very hard because you cannot use trinkets to manipulate the value, because every time you use a trinket, it will roll a ghost die D4, which will usually put you over the value that you need. So it has a lot of variance, and you can't really adjust this variance with trinkets, which makes it very weak in a way. But if you can make it work, it can be amazing, which is why it's a B tier, but it can very often feel like the best weapon in the game. So just be mindful of that. Yeah, I would even put it on A tier, you know what, because I feel like that if you know what you are doing, you can make it work, and then it's very, very much worthwhile. But it's not A tier by default, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, this is a dangerous weapon to pick up if you are not ready for it if you don't have the deck to use it. So be mindful when you pick this up. You might not want to do that, even though it's an A tier. Oof, it's hard. It's somewhere between A and B. You know what? I might adjust it later, but I'll keep it on A for now. If we will have... yeah, I'll see the other weapons I'm putting on A, B, or C, or D, and then I'll adjust. So, yeah. Alright, let's continue. We are down one row. The Skull Basher. I hate this weapon, but it's actually really good. What it does, this is the true form, by the way, it's B. What it does, it gives you +1 for every bone on the... everywhere actually, not on tray, like everywhere in battle. So if it's in your bag, it's still a +1. So if you have 100 bones in your bag, and you might think I'm crazy, why would I have 100 bones in my bag? You can do that easily with Dante. That means that in critical, you will get +1 for every bone that you have in your bag, and +1 for every bone on your tray and every bone on your board. So this can easily deal 200 damage, very easily, with Dante. You can just set it up and you can kill anything. So if you're picking this, if you're playing Dante and you see this, it's likely an A or an S. It can trap you. If you're fighting multiple enemies, you don't want to use it too early because you will be clogged by bones, but it's a very good finishing tool to finish the battle with Dante. Without Dante, this is a C, right? Because bones are still okay. You might want to have a bone die. I like to have a bone die with almost every character. The bone bracelet is pretty good, so it's okay. It has a counter value of 10, which is not great, but it's not terrible. So I would put it as a C tier for every character but Dante, where it's an A or S. Overall, this is a B tier weapon. Makes sense? Maybe so. The Shovel, our first D tier. Shovel is terrible. It has a 6 counter. It allows you to roll a D4 when you crit. If you're not playing, well, if you're playing the Undertaker, it's the only way to achieve this weapon. You can just find it, but you want to switch away from it as soon as possible. For the Undertaker, it's not super terrible because the Undertaker starts with an Obsidian D4, which means the critical value is not super terrible. So you can roll your Obsidian D4, but just a counter of 6 is really low, and the critical value of rolling another D4, even if you have Obsidian D4, that means you can reach a 10, which is just a normal counter for any uncommon weapon. So yeah, its best use case makes it as good as an uncommon weapon, not including the uncommon critical value. This is not good. You want to switch away from it as soon as possible. Right, the short sword. Short sword it's one of those weapons who can also be an S tier in some circumstances, but most likely it's going to be somewhere between B or an A. I'm going to put it on A. What it does on critical value, it allows you to use it again. So you can essentially attack with this weapon. If you get a crit, you can attack another time on the same turn. It doesn't sound super good, but if you set up the correct synergy, you can use this weapon 5 or 6 times the same turn. Like if you have a lot of ways to draw, if you have a lot of ways to consistently reach critical, this can attack multiple times during the same turn and deal like 50, 60 damage. And even if you don't, you can, very likely manage to use this weapon twice or 3 times in any game at the late stages of the game. Even if you did not get like the perfect synergy, you still get some good use out of it. So this is a very good weapon. And yeah, I recommend, it's just solid. Like you can't really go wrong with taking a short sword, and you can really synergize into it to make it insanely good, which will make it feel like an S tier. But even if you don't, it still feels good. So I recommend taking it. 10 counter value is not amazing, but the fact that you can use this value again and again and again, if you are consistent, makes it amazing. So that's my opinion. This is the Sharp Stone. it rerolls, I believe, your lowest die to its maxed value. Um, it has some S tier use cases, or A tier, I would say, which you can get semi-consistently. I'm, yeah, I'm kind of considering between B and A, to be honest. Mm, I need to convince myself. Yeah. Yeah, it does roll your, so on critical it does roll your lowest die to your maximum, to its maximum value. It doesn't sound good, but if you have multiple low die that has the same value, for example, if you have a dwarven stamp, or if you have an eye patch and you can have multiple ones, then when you reach the critical, all those ones will become maximum value. So this synergizes very well with dwarven stamp and with the broken crystal ball, which is, it sounds like, oh, so it has a specific synergy, it should be a B tier, but it's a fairly easy synergy to obtain. So I would say it's pretty consistent. Like, if you know how to use this weapon and you know how to obtain the synergy, you can obtain it fairly consistently. It's not as good as the other A tier weapons here, I would say, so I would put it below them. This is the best A tier, I would say, so let's put it, I will actually arrange them by value. So this is how I would arrange them. Yeah, so it's not as consistent, it's not always working, but you can make it work fairly easily, and when you do, it can reach like 30 damage, and sometimes even 40 or 50. So it can do really, really nice things for you if you just invest a little bit into making it work. Alright, I don't know how to pronounce it because English is not my first language. This is the Scythe, I think. It's the, Grim Reaper slashy weapon. What it does is that when you kill an enemy, you heal 2 HP, and the critical value, like the critical ability, sorry, allows you to roll 2 more d4s from your tray, which is not great. You don't really want to have many d4s. It can work in some very odd, rare cases that you want to have this critical value, but that's beside the point. I would say about this weapon that healing 2 HP is not worthwhile. It's not going to change anything. You might disagree. Many people really value healing. I don't. I feel like healing is not worth it. You usually want things that prevent you from taking damage, than you want things that heal you. And 2 HP is not a lot. It's very, very little. Like, I would rather have 2 more block for the next turn than heal 2 HP. Well, maybe it's a hot take. Anyway, healing 2 HP is not a lot. Because many times you will just be full HP, and then this is worthless. And if you're doing badly, and you are on low HP, this will not save you. Like, 2 HP will not save you. This is why I don't like it. And the counter here is 11, which is not an amazing counter. It's not terrible. This is why it's not a D tier. So just for having 11 on counter, I will give it a C tier. I think both abilities, like rolling 2d4s and healing 2 HP, are just meh. I would not care about those. They're nice to have. Like, it's not bad or anything, but they're not worth bumping it up a tier. So just the 11 counter puts it on C tier for me, which is not an amazing counter, but it's not super terrible. It's not a 6, right? So yeah. Alright, the Bedeviled Blade. This is between A or B. You start with it if you play the Forsaken. This is the only way to obtain it. Like, you can't obtain it, you just need to pick the Forsaken character. What it does is, it returns the lowest value die to your tray. This has a very obvious synergy. Hold on. Okay. Very obvious synergy with a lucky die. You can just roll the lucky die. If it's higher than 9, because the counter here is 9, then it will just give you the die back. So if you have a D10 lucky, you can just use it on this weapon and then get it back to your tray. Very nice, you have wasted nothing. And it also works well with the bone bracelet, which the Forsaken starts with, which allows you to predict, kind of have a fairly certain prediction of your critical value. You can roll the bracelet and then adjust it, and then get the die that you rolled back. So you can use it combined with a poison die, a gambling die, then throw the bone bracelet, get the critical, and get your spatial die back and use it again. So it's very good. The 9 counter is what prevents me from putting it on A, because 9 is very low. I said that anything below 10 is a D tier for me, but if it has a good critical ability, which it has, it will bump it up. So the rather amazing critical ability puts it on B tier, but the counter is just not great. Alright, let's continue. The Iron Sword, it has a counter of 9 and it allows you to roll a D8 on critical. Counter of 9 is not amazing, as we said here, and rolling another D8, I mean, it's okay, it's not terrible. Rolling another D8 will give you some damage, like 4.5 more damage on average, which means this weapon, if you utilize it well, will deal somewhere between 13 and 14 damage, which is just not a lot, and it requires you to waste multiple dice, so a D tier seems fine. Yeah, I would keep it on D tier. We don't have a lot on D tier going on, so let's keep it here. And this is the spear, I believe. What the spear does, its critical value is completely useless, but it has a counter of 11, which automatically puts it above D tier for me. Counter of 11 is okay. And the critical ability allows you to roll an odd die. Odd die is something you never want to take. So if you had to take an odd die, for example, if you had to take it on the very start of the run, this can be okay, but it will most likely not be of any use. Like, you will never use the critical ability. Just having 11 counter is okay enough for me to put it on C tier. 11 is a pretty nice counter. Right, and this is the hammer, Rusty Hammer, I believe. Rusty Hammer has a 7 counter. I will double check myself. It does have a 7 counter. And its critical value allows you to roll a d20. Rolling a d20 is actually valuable. If you have an obsidian d20 or a lucky d20, which is something you might have, or actually any d20, it will really get you into the high tiers of damage. You can do 20 or more damage very easily with this weapon, which is a respectable amount of damage, so this is why it's a C tier. Right, I will keep it plain and simple. The dagger. Right, the dagger is interesting. It's actually weak, but I do like its critical ability. I feel like it's been slept on. So the counter here is only 7, but the critical ability allows you to retrieve all your d4s into the tray. Doesn't sound good, but it's actually really good. d4s are very good for low adjustments in this game. I like to have 1 d4 in my tray at any time, and this allows me to keep that d4 in my tray. The critical value is very bad, like 7 is not good, but returning the d4 is actually pretty nice, even if I don't synergize into d4s. And in the case I do synergize into d4s, which is possible, there are some d4 builds, especially poison builds, then this becomes a B or A. Like, I will want to maybe even end the run with this weapon. But I would say it's a C tier. I just like the ability to retrieve my d4 back to my tray. And if you have 2 d4s, it will retrieve both. So it's pretty useful. Yeah, I feel like this is being slept on a little bit. It's not like amazing, but people think this is completely horse shit. It's not. It's a nice horse shit, I would say. Right, and now for another weapon. The Rogue Dagger. I will drink something. Hold on, sorry about it. I need a pause. Coffee is nice. Sorry, I'll clear my throat. I'll actually mute the microphone for a second. Anyway, yeah. I don't know how to mute myself on OBS actually, so I tried to cough out. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, Rogue Dagger. It's definitely not a C tier. This is an A tier weapon. It's very similar to the Sin Blade, but it doesn't increase its counter. It starts with an 8 counter, which is not amazing, but it strikes twice. The second time, it strikes for 50% of the damage, so you might be thinking, oh, so it's only 12 damage. No, not really, because if you have trinkets, you can increase it to like something that is more than 8, obviously, and then it will deal 50% more, which is nice. So if you have, it really synergizes well if you have gambling chips, or if you have board counters, or anything, like any good trinkets that increase the value by a lot, this will synergize with. And even if you don't, it's a B tier. Like having 12 damage for only fueling 8 is actually not bad, right? Like you only wasted 8, quote unquote, on your dice values or on your fuel. That's how I like to think about it, like how much fuel I have. I consider the values fuel and how much fuel yeah, you get it. So it wastes little of your fuel and it produces 50% more efficiency. That's how I like to think about it. And it's a very efficient way to use your low rolls, which is why I like it. Yeah. Right, the Oracle Lance. This is a D tier. It has 10 value, which is very low. I don't know why. This should be 13. Like I will do a little rant. They put the shield on 13. You don't need 13 on or an uncommon shield. It's an overkill. But they put the weapon on 10? Why? Like, it's like almost they mixed up. It could have been a C tier, which would be very fitting for an uncommon. It's a D tier. The critical ability is sometimes useful, but not always, which is why I will consider it not really useful and I will not bump it a tier. I would actually rather have an 11 counter without any critical values and just this 10 counter with a very, very niche use case critical value, so I will explain the critical value. It allows you to roll a predicted die from your tray. Why you don't want to do that? Even if you have a predicted die, you usually want to keep them there because you want to use the prediction to get another critical. You don't want to waste it after you got a critical. If it's a very high prediction, you might want to do that to get a high damage, but it's just not likely, like you're RNGing, randomizing into it. So you most likely, you will either not have predicted values, or if you have, you might not want to use them for this weapon, which makes it a D tier, in my opinion. The Moon Slicer. Moon Slicer is a B tier. It has a very good critical ability, but it does not have a good counter. So the counter is 10, which is just below my acceptable value for being a weapon I want to use. 10 is just a tad too low. But the critical value allows you to reroll an object from your tray. So an object is anything. If you have a silver star, for example, then you can use it again and roll another 3 items when you reach this critical. So it's really good to reuse your trinkets, like if you have a ghost eye, or if you have a silver star, or if you have a pocket watch, it will allow you to use them once more. This is very solid. The counter is what prevents it from being an A or an S. Right. This is, I believe it's called Molten 6. What it does, it allows you to roll unlimited amount of D6s. This is somewhere between B and C. Actually, it should be here. It's pretty good for a B tier. It's even the best B tier. Okay. This is somewhere between B and the C. It has 12 counter, I believe. I will double check myself, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, it does. It has 12 counter, which is a nice amount of counter, right? But the ability to roll unlimited d6 is not great. It means you really need to synergize hard into d6 to make it work. And then it's just okay. Like, let's say that you reach the critical and then you roll another 4 d6s. I mean, yay, right? Or 5 d6s. You get, in average, like 18 more damage. It's nice, right? But that means you had to really make a d6 deck, which is not something I would recommend unless you also synergize in some other ways, but not just for this weapon. But 12 counter is nice. Yeah, it's somewhere between B and the C. You know what, I will put it on top of C. That's what I'll do. It's the top of C tier. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Yeah, it's hard to synergize into. If you synergize into it, it feels good, it doesn't feel amazing. So I will just say it has a nice counter, it has a nice ability if you synergize into it, but it's never amazing. C tier. You can make it work, but don't try too hard. Right, good. Menno's Scythe, or however you pronounce it. I like this weapon actually. I didn't like it. Like, if you asked me a month ago, when I saw it for the first time, I would be like, this is a C or a D. But no, the critical value is actually very good. And I'm actually thinking between A and a B. Right, I will explain the weapon first. And then I will decide. So, yeah, let's put it on top of B. So the critical value, the critical ability, it takes off all your defense and converts it into more offense, like a red chip equal to your defense value. So if you have 10 defense and you get critical, which is 10 counter here, then you will have 20. With some plated die and some other shenanigans, like chain armor and leftovers and Targe, the Tenacious Targe shield, you can really get very, very high defense values and make this feel S tier. It's very funny. Like, you can get like 50 armor and then use this and just kill your enemy, which makes it feel really good in some situations. This is not always good, but it's always solid. And the reason I'm putting it on B tier is because it's situational, but when the situation comes up, it feels like an A or an S. But even when it doesn't, this is still a good finishing tool. What I mean by that, let's say you don't need your defense, but you need extra offense, then you can set up defense to get the extra offense to finish the fight. So even if you're not like super defensive, this is still like has the utility to be a finishing tool for the fight, which makes it pretty consistently good, which is why I'm thinking between B and A. I'll keep it on B because 10 counter value is just not amazing. Right. The Jester Pitchfork. This is a B tier. It has 10 value, but sorry. But the ability, the special ability, is pretty good. The ability allows you to reroll all dice on tray. It doesn't sound amazing, but until you realize that rerolling all dice also means that you get all the spatial dice ability again. So if you have poison die, leather die, gambling die, how is it called? Gravedigger die? Anyway, gravestone. Then it rerolls them again and it applies the effect one more time. Another use case for it is if you roll a lot of low die and then you get a crit, those low die will get reroll, which means they will most likely be higher value, which makes it pretty good, right? It's kind of like the reason I like the Sharpstone, but I would say the Sharpstone you can really make crazy synergies. This will just be pretty good synergies. It's fairly similar in the sense that you want to reroll your low die with this crit, but this will assure that it rolls maximum value. This will not, but this also rolls everything. So yeah, I guess there are some worlds where the Pitchfork feels better than the Sharpstone, but in most cases I would say the Sharpstone is better. I will keep this as a B tier, and let's go on. The iron sword, I need to remember, it has 16 value. I'm quizzing myself. This is like a trivia for me. So, okay, let's see if I got it. It has 16 value, and when you get the critical value, it allows you to roll another die from your tray. Let's see. Yeah, I was correct. 16 value, can roll one extra die from your tray. Right. Yeah, this is a bit here, actually. Let's put it here. Actually, here. Okay. This is a B tier weapon. 16 value is a very good value. This is what I like about it. Rolling another die from your tray is also very good. But it's not amazing. Like, if you have a d20 and you can roll it then you can do 20 something damage, right? But let's say all the weapon in A tier here have potential for a lot more damage than this one. I need to adjust, okay. Yeah, those have a lot more damage potential than this one. This is just solid, which is good, right? Being solid and consistent is good, which makes it a B tier. But it's also a little bit too consistent and you can't really make crazy synergies into it. Like, you know, some weapons has the problem that they have crazy synergy, but it's hard to obtain. For example, the snake dagger. It has a really crazy synergy, but it's hard to obtain this synergy. But this has the the opposite problem. It does not have crazy synergies going on for it. It's just pretty solid, which is good, which is a B tier. But that's what it is. Right, another B tier weapon. Oh, yeah, I would say it's a B tier. It's the same as the bedeviled, the Forsaken blade. It's the same weapon, like they're exactly the same, but this has 11 counter instead of 9, which makes it slightly better. Like this much slightly better, I would say. It's just slightly better Forsaken blade. I don't know why both exist. They're too similar to each other. It's called the Iron Hand Dagger. It returns the lowest value die into your tray, which I explained why it's good. I will also put this here. This is the Golden Hand Dagger. It returns the highest value die back into your tray, which is better than returning your lowest value die, because usually the die that you rolled best with is going to be the die you want the back most, but not necessarily. So it's slightly better than this, but not necessarily. So it's here, right? I've explained everything. Cool. A lot of B tiers. I might adjust later, right? Like I might say, oh, the pitchfork is actually here, or rather here, right? But yeah, I'm not sure. I should put the Skullbusher at the end of the... Yeah, these three are very, very similar to each other, but I would rate them in this order. Cool, let's continue. This is Heavy Duty, I believe it's called. This is the same as this, but it's good. So what it does, I believe it rerolls all your d6s to your max value, and it has 12 counter. Rerolling all d6 to max value is actually pretty good. It does, like, this asks you to have more fuel. It asks you to have a lot of d6s in your tray, which asks for a lot of draws. It asks for a lot of setup. This does not require setup, and it's very good. So it will reroll all your d6 again, which also means that it will activate a special ability one more time if they have it. Yeah, so it's pretty good. I like the Heavy Duty. And if you have a d6 build, it can feel like an S tier. If you don't, it can feel like a B tier, but overall I would say it's an A tier weapon. It's actually somewhere between A and B, right? Like, I'm not sure. But yeah, same for this one. But I feel like I'm being too... Yeah, I'm a little bit... I would say I'm being a little bit too moderate in my opinions. I normalize everything towards B tier. Yeah, the Iron Sword is an A tier, I would say. The consistency is good enough to be an A tier. Like, having consistently 20 damage, sure, it's an A tier. Even if you can't really make something crazy of it, it's an A tier. Okay, and the sorry, right, and the great axe. Sorry, I need to do something. Okay, I'm done. Right, the great axe is another S tier weapon because it has a very, very, very good ability, which happens always, even if you are not critting. You can reroll ones on the board, which is essentially what the eye patch does. So you get an eye patch when you use this weapon. The eye patch is, in my opinion, the best ability in the game. You can set up a lot of ones and then reroll them when you get the critical. It has 12 critical, and when you reach the critical, you can also attack adjacent enemies. So it has a very good critical ability. Like, I would say it's a good critical ability, but it has an amazing innate ability which does not require critical. And in my opinion, this is how I would order them. This is the best weapon we've talked about so far. But now we're going to talk about another, even better weapon, which is the Golden Sword, which is, in my opinion, the best weapon in the game. It has 20 counter, which is a little bit too high, but it's still very good. I would rather have 20 than a 10. It has the same ability as the Moon Slicer, so it allows you to reroll one object on the board, but it also lucky rerolls it. What that means that if you're rerolling a die, it will also reroll it to the maximum value. Let me just make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, I was just checking in the game. So it has 20 counter and it can lucky reroll one object on the tray. So if you have a d20 on your board, then you can reroll it into a 20, which is very good. But you can also reroll objects, which is very good, and 20 counter is a good counter. So this is both consistent and it has a very good ability. It's not like insane. I would say this can go more insane in some synergies, like even this can be more insane in some synergies. But this is consistently very good. It's not only consistently good like the Iron Sword, it's consistently very good. So I think like this is the weapon I will always be the most happy to see or get. The 20 counter is the only thing that I would give an asterisk nearby, because if you have low dice and you can't fuel a d20, it might be a problem. So just be mindful of that. But I would say in most cases when you get this, if this is legendary, you will most likely get it in the end of Act 2 or in Act 3. Then you should be able to fuel it. So as I said, it's important when you get things, because you get this late, it's good. Like it's better than how it would be if you got it in the end of Act 1, for example, which it would feel like an 8 or maybe. Okay. Sorry, I need to blow my nose. My bad. Yeah, sick streaming or sick recording. Be right back. Alright. Sorry. I will try to edit those out. Yeah. Is this the Bedeviled or the Ghost Saber? Yeah, this is the Ghost Saber, right? This is the Bedeviled here. Okay. So the Ghost Saber is somewhere between S and A. It will be, so this is easily an S if you have Ghost Mask, a Soul Die, or a way to generate Ghost Die into your tray in general. Like there are many ways. But if you don't, then it's not as amazing. It has 19 counter value, and when you get the critical value, you can roll unlimited Ghost Die into your board. I said something similar about this, like I didn't like this. You don't want the ability to roll all your d6s, right? Because it requires a lot of setup, but Ghost Die can actually be generated fairly easily in many circumstances. The Ghost Masks allows you to generate a lot of them, the Ghost Shield allows you to generate a lot of them. So there are fairly common synergies, I would say. You would, about half the games, be able to synergize well into it, and then it becomes an S tier. If you don't synergize into it, I mean, it's hard to not synergize into it at all because you will at least find a soul die, as far as I can tell, in your game after you find it. So you most likely can make it work in some way. If you don't, it's a B tier because 19 counter is just pretty good. It's not amazing. It requires a lot of fuel, but it's pretty good. It's better than a 11 counter or a 9 counter. Right. Yeah, I would say an A tier because it has the potential to be an S tier, but not always. Not always. 50-50. Right. I hate this weapon. I forgot. I never pick it, so I need to read about it. But it allows you to roll a frozen die after you crit. I can't remember the crit value. I'm going to say it's 12, but let me check. Hold on. Yeah, I was correct. Can roll one frozen die from your tray, and it has 12 counter. This is unfortunately a C tier, because 12 counter is not bad. I hate the critical value. I'll even put it here, okay? I hated the critical value. Rolling you don't want to synergize into freezing mechanic ever, so you will not have a freezing weapon. And yeah, that's all I can say. I will just consider this weapon a 12 counter weapon and forget about the critical. A 12 counter weapon is nice, right? This is why I put the spear here. It has 11, and I will also not use the critical of the spear ever. This has 12, so it's slightly better, which is why it's higher in this city. But yeah, it's not amazing. All I can say about that. Let's continue. What is this? Did I put the Bedeviled Blade twice in the tier list? I did, so let's ignore it. The Flail. Right, the Flail has blah blah blah. The value here is... Damn, I forgot. I want to say 10, but I'm going to check. Hold on. It has 12 value. I was wrong. 12 is actually nicer than I thought. And the ability is pretty good. Well, it can be pretty good, but it can also be a trap. It clears your tray, so everything gets discarded in your tray, and it draws 5 more stuff. So, if you are smart about it, you can play this item in a way that you don't have many things in your tray, and then you... No, sorry, you don't draw 5 more stuff. You draw the same amount as the amount of things in your tray. I was confusing this with another ability of a shield. My bad. Hold on, let me read. I will just read what it says. Discard tray and draw equal amount. Alright. My bad. Sorry about it. Yeah. So, again, if you're smart about it, you can still make it work. You use all the things that you want from your tray. You keep the things that you want to get rid of. And then you shuffle your tray. You discard everything. You draw the same amount. And you get new stuff. It can be used in a clever way. That makes it feel like an A tier at most, I would say. It's never an S tier. But 12 counter is solid. The special ability is solid. It can be a trap if you don't have an idea how to use it, or you have this, if you tend, which is a very possible gameplay. If you tend to keep things on your tray for later use, this will feel terrible, which is something you might want to do, like maybe your other weapon wants you to keep things on your tray because you're looking for a certain combo. Discarding all of those things can sometimes feel terrible, and you might have turns where you don't want to use the flail, which is going to make it feel like a C tier, right? Or even a D. But in most cases, you can make it work. So, yeah, B tier. Fine. It's fine. It's interesting. I like this ability. It's interesting. Sorry. The Cross Dagger. The Cross Dagger has a 7 counter. It allows you to roll a bone die when you crit. Not good. You mostly want to use the bone... I mean, it's not bad to roll the bone die on crit, but you get this as Dante. It's the only way to get it. You have a d6 bone die, which means you will do like 10 damage with the crit value. And you might want to use the bone die for other things, not for this critical, because bone die is usually a good die to predict the critical value, because you can re-roll it and get bones, and then use those bones, and on and on. So yeah, 7 counter is just too low for me to justify it being of any use. By the way, this is the correct arrangement. Actually, this is the correct yeah, this is the correct arrangement of D tier. Alright. Yeah, I don't like it. You want to switch from it as soon as possible. Alright, another weapon. This is somewhere between D and C because I would argue this critical ability is harmful. I will explain why. I think it's a C, okay. What the critical ability does is it freezes your... Yeah, let's put it here. It freezes your highest value die on board and it has 11 counter. Let me make sure it does. It does. Okay, I was not wrong. I am checking in game after it's like a trivia for me. Alright, 11 counter and it freezes your highest value die. Why you don't want it? Because some die, when frozen, or actually the lucky die, when it's frozen, it will lose its lucky ability. And your highest die is sometimes likely to be lucky, especially if you have lucky. Like if you want to have lucky and you do, then this will act against your lucky die. So you don't want to freeze lucky die, and this will most likely freeze it, or most likely. If you're not careful, it will freeze it. So this can be harmful. If you don't have a lucky die, it's okay. Freezing your die means that the next time you draw it, it's predicted, which is not bad, like it's even useful. So this is between useful and harmful, the special critical ability, which is like a wash, right? So let's just consider it an 11 counter with a potentially harmful ability. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this weapon. Right, we're almost done. I'm starting to feel my throat betraying me and I need to stop talking, but yeah, let's finish it. Let's go over the line. I'm losing my juices. The Brave Axe is a very, very good axe. I will do a rearrangement of the list of each tier after. So it gives you defense equals to third of your attack value. So for every 3 damage you deal, you get 1 defense. And if I recall correctly, it doesn't need to be unblocked damage. So if you, for example, dealt 20 damage and the enemy blocked 10, it will still consider it as if you've dealt the full 20 damage, right? So yeah, in that case, you would get 6 defense because 18 is the closest multiply of 3. Yeah, it's good. You get a lot of defense this way. It's like chain armor, but better. And this will only happen if you critical, obviously. But you should be able to consistently crit by the time you get it, because it's a rare weapon, so... Yep. Oh, I know what weapon is missing here. The Sai. Huh, let's treat this as if it was the Sai, okay? Don't be confused. The Sai is... I wish I... Okay, I need to adjust the... Hold on. Do I have time to do that? No, let's not do that, okay? I will actually show it to you. No, you know what? I will edit. Let's edit the Sai, because I want to talk about the Sai. I feel like this is an important weapon to talk about. Right. I fear that you will see too much? Okay, maybe not. Oh no. Did I destroy everything? No, I didn't. Okay, never mind. We're not doing that. We are not doing that. So the Sai is a weapon that is no, it's not uncommon. It's common weapon. It has 4 counter, and what it does when you crit, it clears your board, so everything gets discarded, everything, but it allows you to roll unlimited d4s. It's a D tier weapon. It's not this. This is the Forsaken Blade, but we are treating it as a Sai, right? It's a D tier weapon because this is another problem with when you get it, you can only get it when you start the game. It can only appear like on the weapon chests on the first act or when you started the game. But it requires you to have a D4 synergy. Now, having a D4 synergy is possible in this game, but you are not going to do a D4 synergy just because you have this weapon. So it's not really encouraging you to do that synergy. It would only be pickable if you would find it later on in the run, but it never appears in shops, so you can't. So this is a weapon that could have been a C tier, because it would have a very good potential to be good in very specific... it would be essentially the Molten 6, but for D4s. And I would argue D4s are better than D6 for synergies, because I can explain, but it's not... well, I won't explain now, but D4s can be rerolled more frequently if you have the eye patch, and D4s are more common. You start with more of D4, so synergizing it to D4s is better. So, yeah. It would be a C tier if you could find it later in the game, but because you find it at the beginning, you never really want to synergize into it, and you switch away from it as soon as possible. So the potential for the synergy just never is sensible to plan on. You will only take this weapon if you have already synergized into D4s and then you find this weapon, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, again, this is a side, this is not a Forsaken blade. I accidentally put 2 Forsaken blades and forgot to put the side. Okay. Alright. This is the craziest weapon in the game. It's somewhere between A and S. This is the weapon with the most potential in the game. What it does, it's the Bedeviled Blade. Every time you roll a die, it will also roll a Bedeviled D4. Those are negative dice, but they are destroyed on crit. So when you get the crit, they will all be destroyed, and your every negative value will essentially be gone, and it will quote unquote become positive. So if you have if you had -10 and you reach the critical, which is 13, you will have 23 counter. Very good, right? That's pretty good for like potential, but it's not all. That's not all. You also get all the die in your board back to your tray, which is amazing. To make this work, you need good trinkets, because trinkets are the way for you to get the critical value. So if you have a bone bracelet, this goes really hard. Or really any trinket that allows you to control your numbers. But rolling dice will never put you into your counter value, right? Like almost never, unless you're very lucky. Because even if you roll a lucky die, it will also roll a bedeviled die, which means you will not hit the critical value. So it's very hard to achieve crit with it, and it can feel like a trap. If you fail to achieve crit, you might be flooded with a lot of bedeviled D4s, which will make it feel like a detail. But if you can make it work, it goes harder than any weapon in the game, and it becomes the top of S tier. So this is the funniest weapon in the game, because it plays between the lowest D tier to the highest S tier, which is why I love it. I will put it on A tier. Alright. And this is the tier list. Sorry, I need to lie down. It's been a lot. I don't know how long this is going, but yeah. Right. In the case you skipped to the end, or if someone somehow kept listening to me while coughing into the microphone and rumbling, well done. We are here. Let's rearrange the tier list a little bit to make it make sense. Right, let's see if we want to bump down anything or bump up anything from any tier. So the small sword, we did, no, I want to bump it down, I want to bump it down, I want to bump it down, actually, yeah. No, this is hard. Oof. I think I just placed it here. I don't know if this is... yeah, you know what? I will put it on the top of B tier. It has potential, but it's not an awesome potential. It's good. This is the top of B tier. Right, anything else I want to bump down? I'm considering bumping down the Iron Sword, but I actually think it's good. Alright, that's it. That's all I'm bumping down from A tier. S tier, nothing is being bumped down. And let's see if I agree with the arrangement. So, Golden Sword, is this the best weapon in the game actually? This is the weapon I'm most consistently happy to see. It's not the best weapon in the game, quote unquote, in the matter that it doesn't have the greatest potential to be. Like, it doesn't have the best, it's not the best ability, it's not the best counter, but it's a very good counter and a very good ability. 20 counter is good, but it requires a lot of fuel. Lucky reroll is very good, but yeah, again, you need 20 value to do that. So, I'm just really happy to see this weapon whenever I see it. It's in, I wouldn't think this is the best weapon in the game when I made this tier list, but I guess it is. The Great Axe, I really like the ability to reroll ones even without an eye patch. If you have an eye patch, this becomes an A tier, by the way. If you don't, this is an S tier. But in most cases, when you find it, you won't have the eye patch. You might get it later and then be like, I wasted it. But it's not even a waste, it's fine. It's still good, right? Even if you have an eye patch, the 12 counter is not bad, and the ability to deal adjacent damage is not bad. Yeah, let's not talk about everything. I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, I'll keep it here. I really like to stun enemies. I actually like to stun them. Do I like to stun them more than I like to reroll ones? No, I don't. This takes time to set up, but usually it have this time, so I like it. Is this better than the stun? It's not. I agree with my list here. Okay. Is this the best A tier? It's not. It's not. This is somewhere in the middle. I will decide later. Like, I would say above average, middle A tier. The Venom Reach is actually really good. Synergizing with D6s is very good. Poison synergies are fun. I like it. The Rogue Dagger is good, but it's not the top of the list. I would say this is actually better. I just like, so maybe it's not always, like this can also be a trap weapon, but it doesn't flood your bag at least. You might not get the counter because it's hard to use trinkets on it. It's like, it has the same problems as the Bedeviled Blade, but you get punished a little bit less than the Bedeviled Blade because this does not flood your bag. But the Bedeviled Blade has an even better ability. Right, anyway. Yeah, let's put it on... Actually, you know what? I'll keep it... Yeah, let's keep it here. The Swing Blade... Let's put it on the bottom of A tier. It's good, but it's solid. 17 counter is solid. The ability to attack adjacent is solid, but it's kind of similar to the Axe, except the Axe also has this reroll ones, which is bumping it up a tier. The Bedeviled Blade, just for the potential, I would put it on top of A tier. Brave Axe, somewhere here. Yeah, getting a lot of... You can get a lot of defense with it. You still need a shield for the high damage enemies, but in some turns you can just use that and not use a shield. And if you have an a chain armor, you might just have this and a chain armor and be safe. So yeah. Right, I won't overtalk over myself. I'm just adjusting, okay? Just adjusting. Yeah, this is here, it's fine. Yeah, fine. I would say this is like that. Yeah, I like the A tier now, okay. Heavy duty, top of the B tier, sounds good. Actually, this is the top of the B tier, in my opinion. I like this weapon. The hatchet is the bottom of B tier. Twin Carnage, 20 value and rolling 2 D20s. Do I prefer it over a Moon Slicer? Actually, I don't, you know, so let's keep it here. Do I prefer it over this, the reroll, the take back to tray? I don't. I do prefer it over the Jester, I would say, so here it is. That's the B tier. And the flail, I would put the flail here. Okay. Molten 6, where does it land in the city? I would say it's the top of the C tier. The Tooth Dagger, which reduces enemy damage to half, is here. I hate to put it on the top of C tier, but I guess it's pretty, like 12 value is good enough to put it here. 11 value, actually, you know what, 11 value, but the extra abilities, while not great, make it a little bit better than the Frost Blade, or whatever it's called. Rolling another d20 is actually also making it better than the Frost Blade. But I would say the Frost Blade is better than the Spear, better than the Branch, and is it better than the Dagger? You know what, I think it's not. I think the Dagger goes here. Dagger goes here. I've convinced myself. Right. This one allows you to get your d4s back. This is actually very good for d4. It's possibly the best weapon to synergize into d4s in the game right now, which is funny, which is why it's C tier. Like if you got an uncommon or a common item that synergizes into d4s, this would not be C tier, it would be automatically D, because you would not want that. You'd want the other one, but I mean, yeah. The fact that this is the only way to synergize into d4s is what keeps it C, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Right, this has 9 counter, right? This has 10, but this allows you to roll a d8, this allows you to roll a predicted value. I would say rolling a d8 is better than rolling a predicted value. This allows you to roll a bone die, but it has 7 counter, right? It can be pretty nice if you have a d20 bone die, but I mean, you don't want to get a d20 bone die just for that, right? So yeah, this is better than the shovel, and here is the sai, right? The sai, this is not the Forsaken Blade. This is not because I accidentally put Forsaken Blade twice, so instead of the sai. So this is the sai for all intents and purposes, and I would put it here for also the possible synergy with d4s that just doesn't ever happen, maybe 1 in 100 games. Alright, I've talked enough. This is the tier list. This was me. I will go drink a bottle of water. Alright, good. I hope you have learned something today. This has been nice, actually, to talk about the weapons. And maybe I'll do more tier lists in the future. Who knows? Alright, see you. Bye-bye.